South African households are actually getting richer, not poorer, as many may have expected. According to the Momentum Unisa Household Real Net Wealth report, it shows that South African households' real net wealth, in fact, has increased over the first 6 months of 2019 to 300 billion rand. Well, let's put all of that under the spotlight. Joining us, Johan van Tonder, researcher and economist at Momentum. Morning. Thank you very much for joining us today. What is real net wealth, and what's the difference between that and income?
Yeah, real net wealth is actually your assets minus your debts. And then if you subtract your debts from your assets, that's your wealth. Income is what you earn and what you use to accumulate assets. In other words, to invest. And then your spending is your day-to-day running expenses. So it's two completely different things.
Right. Now, we know that there's a lot of strain on income at the moment.
Yes.
How then has net wealth increased? What are the contributory factors?
Yeah, just on the real net wealth, it's not what you see today. It's if you exclude the impact of inflation. In other words, it's actually your purchasing power of your wealth that increased. So what actually happened in the second quarter is that households with a lot of investments saw those investments growing, mostly because they're invested in some sort of a pension fund or a retirement annuity, or they've got money in deposits, etc. So that increased for two reasons. The one is the monthly contributions to pension funds, as well as to retirement annuities, actually increased during the second quarter. And secondly, the returns on those investments also increased, and that brought about the big increase in net wealth.
Does this put me, for instance, in a more comfortable financial position?
Actually, it does, if you do contribute to pension funds and retirement annuities. Because what a lot of people don't know is if you break down your assets, about 70% of your assets, financial assets, in other words, your investments, 28% is more your residential, it's your property, and then the rest is your belongings and so on, making up the rest. So those who actually saved money and invested money, they're the households who gained.
But Johan van Tonder, we are chronically underinvested as individuals in this country, and we're notoriously bad at saving, aren't we?
Yes and no. Those people who can save, they really save well. If I can give you an example, people earning around about 12,500 rand a month, they're saving approximately 13% of their gross income. The problem is there's not a lot of them. The majority of the people in our country earn less than 12,500 rand a month. So actually the ideal would be for all of us to try and save like 16% of our gross income on a monthly basis. But 13 is not that far. But
balance that against cost of living, and it's virtually impossible to do so, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why we calculate the real net wealth. In other words, to take the cost of living into account. And because we've done that, that's what increased, and that's the good news.
Is this particular report a false positive? Are we looking at a different situation second quarter 2019 and going into 2020?
Well, I won't think so, because if we look at what's been happening currently, because most of the increases in financial assets or the returns being driven from abroad. In other words, the trade war between the US and China. At the moment things are looking good, then the returns go up. When it looks bad, then it declines, and now it's looking good again. So if we take it forward, it would seem as if our wealth is still going to grow going forward.
But as you point out, we're always held hostage in this country to the vagaries of international politics.
Exactly. But it will help if we get our act together as well, because then that impact will not be as big as it is right now.
All right, final question to you then. Against that suggestion of moving from 13 to 16%. How should people be planning against that backdrop? What is a better investment strategy that they should be looking at in order to preserve asset and wealth?
Well, the first thing actually is to start saving as early as possible, because what we're finding is people start saving at 35, 40, and then it's too late. So you have to do what we call a long-term financial plan.
So what age? 25. Moment you start working.
Say 27 is still okay. Then you can make it. And also, don't retire at 60. Because if you work, say, till 65, it sort of doubles what you will get out those 5 years between 60 and 65.
That is such good advice, but again, maybe this is straying a little bit from your area of expertise, but try telling that to a 25 or a 27-year-old millennial who has completely different priorities.
I think it was the case with me as well. It's not just the millennials, because right now you're starting off and you want to accumulate assets, etc. But the thing is, if they still can start doing it by, say, age 27 and catch up a little bit later, then they'll still be okay.
Johan, I wish I'd heeded your advice when I was a younger man. Johan van Tonder, you too, researcher and economist at Momentum. Thank you very much